Hello YouTube, my name is Jack, welcome back to Barnyard Wargaming and a video today about my experiences from the first tournament of 10th edition. Before we get into all the hot goss, please consider subscribing. We're trying to hit 10,000 by the end of the year. It's free, you can always unsubscribe later. It's just that button down there, go and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, then tell a friend about us. If you all link to literally one other person, we double our subscribers. I'm sure you understand how it works. And I don't like asking you, but it just has to happen anyway, so please subscribe. Now I'm going to break this video down into two parts. The first part, I'm going to discuss the issues with 10th edition as a whole, balance of the game, and a few other small little tidbits here and there. And then the second part of the video, I'm going to go and discuss just a few armies in general and discuss my findings from versing them or playing with that army yesterday. So, 10th edition, is it fun? Yes, it is absolutely a blast. I actually am having a lot of fun, more fun than I thought I would have. They did go into this whole new edition saying that it would be more simplified, but not simple. So you could still run all the different random little concoctions and combos that you come up with. That is true to some extent. The game has been simplified quite a bit, and I think that for more experienced players and people who play a lot, you will get quite bored. After playing the same faction for maybe a few weeks, if you're a regular player, such as myself, I play like maybe 2 or 3 games a week, it will get boring to play the same army over and over. But more rules will be released, so I'm actually quite hopeful. A lot of people don't like the psychic phase being removed, but honestly, it is quite refreshing and it did speed up the game. Normally when I go to tournaments, a lot of my games were about 3.5 hours, and I would finish right on the deadline, or maybe sometimes not finish at all. But for the games I played yesterday, I finished all of them almost an hour ahead of time, so it only took me about 1.5 hours to 2 hours to play a full game of 40k. That being said though, there is a lot of balance issues. So the game is really unbalanced. There are a lot of armies that literally can win without even breaking a sweat, and other armies are so absurdly weak that they have absolutely no chance to win any games whatsoever. We'll get onto this towards the end of the video, talking about specific armies, but overall I think that you should not take the game too seriously as of yet. A lot of things need to be rebalanced before they can actually call it a fair game, and really I would say that wins actually don't really count at this point in time. If you go to a tournament and you're running something really overpowered, I don't think you actually count as winning. I would discount those wins because the game is that unbalanced. It doesn't really make sense, as I'm sure you've seen from a lot of other videos on YouTube from people complaining about it. The game is quite unbalanced. So if you do get absolutely stomped in a game, don't think about it too much. A lot of these armies are just not balanced at all. The first thing I want to talk about in terms of the game is Devastating Wounds. Devastating Wounds is if you get a wound roll of a 6, then you convert all of your damage to mortal wounds. You can also have other rules interact with this, like anti-vehicle, anti-monster, anti-infantry, which gives you a critical wound, which means that whatever the value you have anti against, for example 4+, you get those devastating wounds on those 4s as well, 4s, 5s, and 6s. This is absurdly powerful and needs a immediate change. If it was me, GW, if you're listening, I would change this to ignore saves. The reason I would change it to ignore saves is because then it's exactly the same rule, but you take away damage spill. A lot of people in the comments, I'm sure, you will talk about the fact that some armies get resistance against mortal wounds, for example, Custodes, and I think that you need to change these rules as well to just say if it has devastating wounds, you also get your 4+ saves or whatever feel no pain you have against specific mortal wounds, or for example flesh hounds or something. If you have feel no pain against psychic, you would still get those, of course, but it should say ignore saves so that you do not spill over damage. The biggest offender of this rule so far is the Wraith Knight with double Wraith Cannons. You can do 2d6 mortal wounds per wound roll of a 6. Now that is pretty devastating if you want to shoot into something like an enemy tank, for sure, but if you want to shoot into infantry, you can just literally pick up the whole squad, and this is a one-shot gun essentially, firing a big laser beam. I don't really think that it's fair to pick up a whole unit of infantry with a gun that is designed to tear tanks and big monsters apart. If they were to change this, I don't think it would fix a lot of the problems of the game, but it would certainly drastically improve a lot of the issues that they're having with devastating wounds. The next one I want to talk about is secondaries. So secondaries of the game, you can choose to take tactical or you can choose to take fixed secondaries. I don't really understand the point of fixed. I know that some tournaments are actually looking at making you take fixed only, and I think that that is going to be quite problematic for a lot of people in the game. A lot of people actually prefer to take tactical and just draw your cards at random instead of taking fixed secondaries. They find it more fun, which I actually welcome that change. I do like the fact that you get to choose. The problem I'm having though is that fixed secondaries are really hard to achieve. I think that they need a little bit of a buff and actually give you more points, and you should have some kind of reward. For example, if you achieve both in a single battle round, you should get a command point. Because in this sense, armies that don't gain CP in other methods, for example, like Lord Solar Leontis, if you're not playing Guard and you don't have that access to draw an additional CP, but you want to still play fixed, it's not really fair to play 1 CP down every round compared to other players. So I think that they need a bit of a CP buff, and they also need a little bit of a extra points boost so that you can get those extra points, and then playing fixed will be a bit more fair. I know that some armies will be getting fixed maybe with their new codexes, potentially getting secondaries unique to that faction, or if they release a new set of rules for an upcoming kind of iteration of playing match play, they'll release custom fixed secondaries for every faction in the game potentially, and this may change the tide of battle as well. But for the immediate most part, I think that you need to change the fixed secondaries to make them a little bit more powerful. Not a lot, just a little bit, so that they are also as rewarding as tactical. And also I think that you need to change a few of them so that they're not so unfair for specific armies. An example of this is Daemons. Daemons want to take a lot of their greater demons, and because they're both a big monster and a character, they give up both Assassinate and Bring It Down. And I think that this is quite unfair when you want to have about 12 to 1300 points of your army in greater demons, and you want to run a big monster mash, and someone just rocks up with a guard gun line with a bajillion tanks, and they take Bring It Down and Assassinate, and you really can't even play the game because every single one of your monsters will either give up 8 or 9 points. I think that's a little bit excessive, and some armies should be exempt, or the rules should be changed in some way. I don't really have a solution for that, but to me it seems a little bit strong. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of the game is indirect fire. Indirect fire is way too powerful and needs a huge nerf. I'm talking, if it was me trying to solve this issue, only hit on 6s. Across the whole board, no buffs, no modifiers in any way. If you are shooting out of line of sight, you hit on 6s. This doesn't stop you from getting things like sustained hits. It doesn't stop you from rerolling all your hit rolls. That's fine, but only hit on 6s. I think this would definitely change the meta from running like 3 Manticores and a Basilisk and sitting at the back of the field and not moving, so you get +1 to hit with heavy, and then you can just ignore some of the modifiers or get rerolls from other units like Sentinels that want to spot units up in the field. 30 Desolator Marines are quite popular at the moment, and that's because you can just stand still, you get +1 to hit, you can get all these rerolls with Oaths of Moment. It's too strong. I think that if you change it to only 6s, it would actually make those units quite rewarding to play, because a lot of those units have an additional ability. For example, if you have like Night Spinners and you want to subtract movement or something like that with indirect fire, you can make people move slower or take battle shock tests or anything like that. That's a really unique part of the game, and all you need to do is hit the unit once with a 6 to trigger that ability. Even Eldar with your indirect fire Night Spinner, if you wanted to trigger an ability like that, you could just Strands a hit roll. Because some armies really just don't know how to deal with indirect fire spam, because dealing with it is quite difficult. A lot of AP actually partially went down, and movement has gone down, and you just can't get into the back corner anymore the same way that you used to deal with these indirect fire issues. Changing it to hit on 6s means that you will be inclined to take a few of those units, and if you really want to crack down on people that are hiding behind walls in the very corner of the map, or if they take a single character that they don't attach to a unit, then you can still fire at that character, which is a nice change. Terrain. So terrain has changed ever so slightly so that there is only light cover now, and every unit in the game can benefit from light cover. This has made some armies a little bit too resilient, for the fact that everything now getting light cover, and combined with the fact that all AP across the board has gone down, it means that things like, for example, guard tanks can get really high cover saves and sit behind walls, even partially with their big guns to shoot everything else on the table. And this is unfair for armies that rely on invulnerable saves, such as Eldar, Harlequins, and Demons. It's not really fair to those armies who no longer benefit from any cover, for example, dense, or if you want to make some armies harder to charge. For example, if you have a squishy Eldar unit and someone wants to charge you through difficult ground, which used to be -2 to your move, that doesn't exist anymore. So light cover really just doesn't benefit those armies in the same way. I think that this needs to be changed just in some way so that you can still get some bonuses. I would love to see a unique rule that says something like, if your invulnerable save is already 1 higher or the same as your armor save, then you can get -1 to hit, something like that. That would actually benefit Demons or Eldar or any other faction that wants to have better saves by hiding partially behind a wall. You'd actually still get some resistance. With dense terrain being gone, some of these armies are just way squishier than they used to be, and it's just not as balanced for every army in the game going from 9th into 10th. So now we move on to specific factions. I just want to cover a handful of factions in particular that I experienced yesterday at the tournament. So firstly, let's talk about the big bad in the room, Eldar. Eldar are absurd. They are so ridiculously broken right now that you can win a tournament literally without even trying. There was a player who decided to take 2 Wraith Knights. I won't name names, I told them not to, and everyone hated them for it, especially when we were told to play armies that were not specifically broken. We were told to play armies that we want to test and see and learn the game of 10th edition alongside said army. They took double Wraith Knights, and they did not even break a sweat. In the final round, they managed to pick up both Trajan Valoris and 9 Custodian Guard with a single Wraith Knight on the first turn. That is so absurdly broken that I don't even have words for it. And yeah, a lot of these armies are ridiculously unbalanced. Eldar obviously is the biggest culprit. I think Eldar, alongside the change to Devastating Wounds, needs a huge points increase, and a lot of their army needs to have their rules changed. For example, I would change Wraithguard so that you do not shoot twice. I would just remove that rule entirely, maybe put in the rule that they had from the previous edition where they could fall back and shoot, or they could shoot in combat, but the fact that you get to double shoot is so broken, that's not even funny. I play Eldar, and I've been playing Eldar for 13 years. It is literally my main faction, and I did not even verse an Eldar player yesterday, and I can safely say, they're broken. It's too much. I think a lot of people as well in the comments will say that Devastating Wounds and things like that should not be triggered on Strands of Fate rolls, as in like when you change a Strands dice on a roll, you should not trigger things like sustained hits and devastating wounds, and I think that you are very much incorrect. I think that that is a spice, that is a flavor of Eldar, that is what they were known for, and that's a really unique and fun interaction. The only reason you don't like it in this point in time is because it's too powerful. If they just change the amount of damage that comes out, or they increase the points, or they change devastating wounds, the fact that you can trigger those strands rolls to get unique outcomes that you couldn't actually get before is really awesome. That is just a fun mechanic that feels really nice to use, and it doesn't make the opponent feel bad unless it is too strong. So if it's reined in just a little bit, I think that unique interactions should stay. The next faction I want to talk about is Demons. So I took Demons to the event. I was running a Nurgle focused demon army, and I can safely say that in 10th edition, damage matters more than resilience. I had a Great Unclean one that was -1 to hit. He had a 4-up invulnerable, 4+ feel no pain, and toughness 12. And if he passes Battle Shock in Shadow of Chaos, he heals D3 wounds. Now, I can safely say that I think Demons are very underpowered compared to some of the other factions in the game. I know a lot of people will be like, oh Jack, you said the same thing last edition and Demons were actually quite good. Their invulnerable saves can really spike a game and they can hit like trains. I agree. And I think that if you take specific units in Demons, yeah, that is definitely the case. But it's not really a balanced codex. For a Grand and Clean one to have all of those buffs stacked on him to die to maybe like 500 points of shooting in every single game that I played, that's not really okay. It should take the enemy all of their army, 2,000 points, multiple turns of shooting to kill a Grand and Clean one with that amount of resilience to bring him down. Because he does not do any damage. If you want to have a big blob that just sits on an objective worth 5 OC and he gives other units of your army buffs and he does quite literally 0 damage in combat because of how weak he really is, and don't try and tell me in the comments he has a lot of attacks and does a lot of damage. Over the course of 3 games, he killed about 300 points. So he does not deal any damage, and so he should be a lot more resilient. And that just goes to show that some of the armies in this game have so much damage, it doesn't matter how resilient you are, you're still going to go down. Which I think is just a huge problem, especially with the tagline that GW said when they said that this game was going to be less killy with less rerolls. I think that if you're going to really amp up the damage on the enemy units like that, then the Grand and Clean one should absolutely be toughness 14. Not only does that make sense lore-wise, but it is a multiple of 7. So he should be toughness 14, and I think that all Nurgle Demons, if you're going to pay that many points for them, should be at least 5-up feel no pain and -1 damage. I think that you could actually make that change tomorrow and they still would not be broken, because they don't even really do any damage anyway. They just survive a little bit longer on the field. Rant aside, I want to move on to Tau. Tau is an army that I've loved for a long time. I actually have a Tau force, I just haven't played it very much, and I've always wanted to learn them as a faction. A lot of people actually hate Tau because they're that army that sits in the corner and they just become a gun line and shoot everything to smithereens. But at this point in time, they are so absurdly weak that there is no point in even playing the game. It's the same with armies like Death Guard and Votann. They are ridiculous. And I have proof of this because yesterday at the tournament, I versed Will. Will is a fantastic player, and I met him in the finals for the bottom table. We were both 0-2 at this stage of the tournament, and for the final game of the day, I literally walked at him with Nurgle Demons that had just been absolutely crapped on for the last 2 games in a row. I walked at him in a straight line with no buffs of any kind and did not even try to reroll saves or anything like that, and he did not kill basically anything. And he was rolling 6s like crazy. Tau is so underpowered, it is ludicrous. If you went up against Double Wraith Knight, which is only like 750 points, you would lose with 2,000 points of army, and that is absurd. That is crazy. I understand that there is some play from Tau, like taking triple hammerhead or a storm surge with towering. I understand that they're not completely out of the game, but some of their units are so weak, it is absurd. And the last one I want to talk about is Guard. Guard I experienced firsthand yesterday, and the amount of indirect fire that they have is already absurd, but the fact that you can combine that with other units in their army, for example Sentinels, which are ridiculously hard to kill, really fast, have decent OC, and yeah, you can bring them back for 2 command points. Why? Why is that a possibility? Why can you run like a Doom Hammer with a gun that is like D6 plus 6 damage with a 4-up vulnerable save in both shooting and combat? You can pay a CP to make it -1 damage, And you can heal at D3 wounds with a 45-point engine seer. Why is that a thing in the game? That is so ludicrously broken compared to other armies in the game. It's not even funny. You literally cannot win. How can you possibly beat that? There's no chance in hell, if you're not running something like Eldar with double Wraith Knights, that you can beat that faction. So yeah, devastating wounds, indirect fire, both need to change immediately, and some armies need to have the points reduction of a lifetime. Like, I'm talking half of what they cost now, because it is so unfair. So to round out, at the tournament, did I have a fun time? Yes. It was a great time. I actually had probably one of the funnest times at any tournament I've been to, and yeah, it was interesting. What I did learn is that the game is very unbalanced. There are a lot of rules that need to change, and some armies are just going to have to wait for their book or for a balanced starter slate before they can actually play the game properly, because it's just not balanced. I'm sorry, GW. I know that you tried, and it is good to see that you're opening up the game and making it a bit more simple for people to join in. That is great. The more people, the merrier. Not only does it benefit GW, but it benefits me directly by making YouTube videos as well. So of course, I'm very much into that, but it will be some time before the game is balanced. And so my message to all of you is that if you're going to be playing games of 10th, don't play them seriously. Don't try too hard. Play something really random that you've never played before. Bring out the units that you haven't brought out of your cupboard for a long time. And please don't play something meta, because you're not going to have fun with it. You're just going to find that you're going to win the game very easily and it'll be boring. You're better off making something fun and trying some weird combos with new rules and new units that GW have designed specifically to make you have a bit more enjoyment in the game, instead of abusing the rules that they have messed up with. Otherwise, that will be it from me today. I know it was a bit of a rant. I'm interested to see what all of you have to say in the comments. Don't hold back. I can take it. Lend me your ideas and I will see what you have to say. I will try and respond to all of you down in the comments as well. And let me know what your first experiences of your 10th edition tournaments have gone like. I'll be interested to know what factions you played and what you versed and how you think you went. And otherwise, subscribe. It's free. Please subscribe. Please. I'm begging you. All I need is a one button click down there. There you go. Done. I want to hit 10K by the end of the year. I know that's a big stretch, but if you subscribe, it really helps me. So please subscribe. I'd love to make more videos and more content for you, and the only way to do that is to subscribe. If you really want to support me, then you can become a member. That's only $4 Australian a month. You get a bunch of unique extra add-ons if you're a member as well. And you also get discounts over at Dice Arcade, which is our sponsor. So if you haven't seen any of the plugs I've done before, then go check out Dice Arcade and join us on Tuesdays and Saturdays for more games. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!